I tell you what, I'm really gonna miss that theme song. Hey everybody, hey everybody. Welcome back. You know, I was having two separate conversations with two separate friends. One friend was a woman and the other friend was a man. So keep that in mind. Hold on a second. Yeah. So when I was talking to the female friend, for example, she was telling me about her latest boyfriend, relationship, man, situationship, whatever you want to call it. Because as we all know, in today's dating world, people are so hesitant to define, their relationships and give them titles and stuff like that because people hate labels and stuff like that. So when they're with someone, involved with someone, you never really know what to make of it because nobody wants to define what it is because everybody's too wimpy to do so. Whatever. That's neither here nor there, though. But with that said, I didn't know what she wanted me to refer to this dude as, and apparently neither did she. So it didn't matter. But anyway, she was telling me about this guy, and she was complaining about the fact that she expressed an interest in getting her nails or hair or something like that done for some kind of trip that she was going on, and she was bothered because he did not offer to assist her financially in getting those things done. It's interesting. Then I was having a conversation, like I said, with a male friend of mine as well about something different. And we were talking about a woman that we knew that was having car trouble. And he was saying that her new boyfriend and situationship, whatever you want to call it, he was saying that that dude that she was involved with at that time should help her out with paying to get the car fixed. And this started a debate between he and I. uh, about basically what were the obligations of the new man, boyfriend, situationship, whatever you want to call them. What were his obligations to this woman that he was in this whatever with? Specifically, whether he should have been obligated to help her out with her whole car situation. Now, my friend, he felt that just by them being in a relationship, and for people that can't see me because you're listening to the podcast, I'm putting relationship, that word in air quotes. But my friend was saying that because they're in a relationship or whatever you want to call it, that he had a certain obligation to help her out with getting her car fixed in that case. And even though I didn't discuss the scenario with my female friend, I think it's pretty safe to say that she would agree with my male friend, especially if she expects the dude that she's messing with to put money in for her hair and nails. And honestly, I really don't understand any of this. Furthermore, I've always resented these types of obligations. See, here's the thing. My male friend, he's married, and that's important to note. He's in love. Well, let's assume that he's in love. And the reason I say let's assume that he's in love is because, when I get on these episodes and I go on these rants and all of this stuff, part of the rants that I go on is when I openly wonder and debate whether anybody's really in love when they get married. And when they get married, things go downhill and all of that stuff. But with that said, there's no real need to go down that rabbit hole and questioning whether love equals marriage and all of that good stuff. For the purposes of this conversation that we're having right now, monologue, because nobody's talking back to me, but for the purpose of this monologue that I'm having with you right now, let's just assume that he's in love. He's in love with his wife is in love with him, they're in love. So when he talks about doing things for a woman that he's involved with, or a man doing things for a woman that they're involved with, he's speaking from his own married perspective and probably projecting that onto all relationships. He has a belief, and it's one of those old school beliefs that, if a woman is putting out, then she's giving of herself. And as such, a man should go above and beyond to do what he needs to do to I guess, pay for what he's getting from her giving of herself. And in modern day dating lexicon, I think we've pretty much shot that down because women enjoy sex as much as men. And if you are giving someone something that you want, it's not really giving something you want it. So it, that doesn't make any sense. That's like saying, "Hey, I like a massage, so I will grant you the privilege of giving me a massage that I want, and then for me granting you the privilege of giving me the massage that I want, you should also not only give me the massage that I want, but you should also pay me for my allowing you to give me the massage." It doesn't make any sense. It's like I said in the other podcast when I was talking to Reggie way back in the day. Yes, that Reggie. It's like Tom Sawyer. I think it's Tom Sawyer and Huck fan Tom Sawyer. I always get them confused, but in one of them, I think it's Tom Sawyer, where he convinced the kids to paint the fence for him because he tricked them into thinking about how much fun it would be for them to do it. And he just sat back looking at them like a sucker. And sometimes I think women, that's how they are when they're convincing guys that I'm allowing you to have sex with me, even though I want it. So anyway, but his old school way of thinking, he still had that belief, and as such, a man should do those things, pay for hair and nails, pay to get the car fixed, all of those things. But like I said, he's in love. So when he's spending money to do things for his wife, that's what I like to refer to as love money. When you love someone, you don't think as much, if at all, about the consequences of spending money on that person that you love. And for me personally, I have absolutely no problem spending love money. I just went to a concert a couple weeks ago. I spent over 200 bucks for a ticket for my friend. And because I love her as a friend, it's important to know, and that's all. But still, because I love her, I don't think twice about spending the money. Again, I have no problem spending love money. Now, that's one category. Now, if it's somebody that I'm dating or just started dating, there's no way in the world that I would even think about spending that kind of money on that person. Somebody I just met or somebody I just started dating, shoot, forget that mess. Now, even though obviously I had the money to spend, because as I just said, I spent it on my friend, someone that I love. But just having the money does not mean that I'm going to spend it just on anyone. And the problem with it is that if I spent that money on somebody I was dating or something like that, eh, I'd be thinking that she's not at that place. Like she doesn't really deserve that kind of a gift. And I'd be thinking about what I'd be getting or what my expectations would be if for doing such a nice thing for that person. I'd also probably be wondering if I was being taken to the hoop, if I was being taken advantage of, and other things like that. See, the thing about it is, with my friends and people that I love, when I spend love money, it's because they have time invested, and I know the answers to those questions. I know I'm not being taken advantage by somebody that I actually love, who actually loves me. And as for their deserving it, they're being my friend and putting up with me for as long as they put up with me. I think that speaks to, whether they deserve it or not. So those things go out of the window for people that I love. But for somebody that I just kind of like, nah, you kind of have to grow to that point. I'm not spending love money on you. Nah, you don't deserve love money. But with that said, there are some people, guys in particular, and sometimes women, that don't have a problem spending that kind of money. Money that I refer to as like money. So you have love money, you have like money. Because in those men and women's minds, They can spend money on people that they like because their thinking, I guess, is if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. What's a couple $100? These same guys, they'll spend the money on the hair and the nails for somebody that they just like. I'm not good with spending like money. Never have been. And I think it's safe to say at this age of my life, I probably never will be. Now, when I talk about like money, that's the $200 concert tickets and things in that category. But there are obligatory things that you kind of have to like spend money on during the courting process, particularly if you're a guy. Women don't have to spend anything, they just pretty much take. So, first date dinners and things like that, or your other standard spending that you would do on during the courting process. Dinner is what comes to mind because when in doubt, take a woman out for a meal. Shoot, women love to eat, as me and Reggie, yeah, that Reggie talked about in podcasts in the past when I was complaining that women like fine dining, and that's one of the things that they listed there as their hobbies. That really makes me angry for whatever reason. Why it makes me angry, I don't know. I have no idea. Uh, But with all of that said, that money doesn't necessarily fall into the like category. Well, I guess it does fall into the like category because you're spending it on someone that you like. But for me, at least, like money that I spend, it has a cap. Like, we'll go to a mid-tier restaurant to low-tier restaurant. And then when you get to the love category and I start spending love money, then we can go to restaurants where we're getting into triple digits when the bill comes. Even though in Atlanta, man, you can go to like Applebee's and spend close to $1. If not, spend $1. God forbid if you get a drink. Sheesh. If you get if you go to Applebee's and you get appetizer, you get two main courses, and you get a drink apiece, an alcoholic drink, yeah. And then you add a tip onto that. If you do actually tip, and I am a person that tips, I think everybody should tip at least 20%. Understanding that most people don't, but a lot of people do. Either either way, the point is you factor in the tip and everything else, you can, yeah, you can you can cross over that 100. And because I've done it when I've done it spending like money on somebody and then got in the car after paying the check and was like, I cannot believe I spent this much money at this place. No disrespect to Applebee's, but it's not the place that you go to spend $100 on a meal. But I'm like, I spent this money at this place for somebody that I like. So that's one time where you get caught up spending like money and you exceed the ceiling that you had set for spending that kind of money for somebody that you may never see again, or definitely not somebody that would grow into the love category where you spend love money. Now, for somebody I love, if we go to Applebee's, have a good time. Get some extra riblets if you want to. Do your thing. Yeah, hey, I'm with it. But nah, I'm not going to Applebee's spending $1 just for yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. I kind of got off on a tangent. Again, no disrespect. No disrespect to Applebee's. I love Applebee's. I love the desserts too. But the point is that beyond the first date dinners and the money that you spend on a woman during the standard courting process, I don't necessarily like going much further beyond that. I don't like spending like money. To me, $200 concert tickets go way beyond the boundaries of standard spending during the courting process. But for a lot of guys, spending that like money isn't a big deal, like I said a little bit earlier. Maybe it's because they have more recreational income than I do. And or they don't really care about the negative ramifications that can come from spending like money on somebody. Ramifications like the training that a woman the like the training that that woman would expect from you when you spend like money on them and you do it consistently. There are women, and I know some, that will talk about how this is how they started treating me. They got me accustomed to a lifestyle, and therefore they need to maintain that lifestyle. They started spending that like money on me, and you can't like dial it back after you like fall in love and it turns to love money. You can't be talking about, oh, those $200 concert tickets, that's just what I was doing to try to get at you. Now that I got you, nah, now we can just go see the street musician on the corner of whatever street you live on. Nah, that's a bad thing. You get that woman accustomed to that lifestyle. You're buying $200 tickets all of the time. And there are other ramifications. But either way, regardless of whatever those ramifications are, like she could actually be using it. That's another ramification is serious. And I mentioned that earlier. But the point is, yeah, you really have to think about that. If you spend that like money, are you getting like results? So we talk about love money, we talk about like money. I'll spend love money. I have no problem with that. I don't like spending like money. And I don't think I'll ever like spending like money. And then there's the last money category, which is simply no money. This is the worst category, obviously, to be in. People, guys and ladies, in the no money category probably shouldn't be dating at all. Guys in the no money category can barely afford to court women, which means that they can't even get into the like or love money categories. Being in the no money category is just way too stressful. And I know this because I was in the no money category when I was in my 20s. I used to, I tell you what, when I was in my 20s and I was at my brokest, when I was in the no money category and couldn't afford to date, I used there was no Uber and Lyft and all of that good stuff as if I could have afforded them anyway. So I used to actually borrow friends' cars and stuff to take women out on dates. And my whole thought, instead of like being focused on, courting this woman, getting this woman to like me, my whole thought process was just like, okay, how do I get to the next date? If there is another date, okay, where am I going to get the money from? What cheap ideas can I come up with? How can I get to the date without making me look a certain way? I don't know if you all that are listening have ever listened to, if you ever saw the movie Half Baked. It's the movie that Dave Chappelle starred in before Dave Chappelle was Dave Chappelle. And even if people saw it, I'm sure that you probably saw it after the original release. I don't know anybody that saw it when it came out because I was one of the people that actually saw it when it came out. And when I mentioned it to other people, they had no idea what I was talking about. Now you mentioned Half Baked to people and they act like they were all there and they all saw it on opening day weekend, even though it made $6.75 on opening day weekend. But anyway, people in their revisionist history, but I digress. That's neither here nor there. But in the movie, there was a scene that I could really relate to because Dave was dating a woman. Her name was Mary Jane. And well, actually, he asked her out. Her name was Mary Jane, and she agreed. And during the date, he was so stressed because he was cutting every corner that he could, all while trying not to let on that he was in the no money category, that he was no money. And he couldn't just like enjoy the date because he was constantly counting the prices of everything that she ordered and trying to encourage her to stay on the cheaper side of the date while she was just pretty much like, hey, I want this. And of course, he couldn't say, no, that's too expensive. He had to like find a way to kind of massage it in a way so as not to let her know. But I bring that up because that was my life at one point in time. And that was not fun. Dating was not fun. Dating is not fun when you're broke. No, broke is the wrong word. Dating is not fun when you're no money. These days, what's funny to me, at least, is that some women might see me as cheap. And I prefer the term wise with the dollar, by the way. But some women might see me as cheap because they may think that I don't spend extravagant amounts of money on them, and they just don't realize, or care for that matter, don't know which one, I don't know. But they don't realize that it's not that I'm cheap or wise with the dollar. It's just that I don't like spending like money, and they're in the like category. And what they don't know is that if they were to just hold on for a little while, they find themselves getting love money spent on them. Just like my friends that I take to concerts and I spend the money on. They just don't deserve it because I just like them. I don't love them. Oh well, that's all I have to say about that. Three categories. There's love money when in dating, there's like money in dating, and then there's no money in dating. No money, you shouldn't be dating at all. Like money, there's a risk that you might get played. And love money is when you trust someone and you don't think about all the bad things that can happen by spending the money that you spend on that person. So, and even though I included my friends in that whole thing with the love money, obviously I'm not dating them. That doesn't apply to relationships, but it's an example of what you're willing to spend for somebody that you love. Okay, let me close by talking about a couple of things. Christopher Williams, and for people that don't know Christopher Williams, he's an R&B singer. He has one of my favorite R&B albums of all time, the very underrated Changes. That mess is the truth. And I'm not really a big fan of ballads by guys for whatever reason, probably because I'm attracted to women. I feel it more when women sing slow songs, slow love songs, and all that stuff. But when men sing them, I can't think of many slow songs sung by men that I really, really like. But on that Changes album, boy, Christopher Williams has some joints. That album is exceptional. And if you hadn't heard it, because it didn't really sell a whole lot, but I strongly encourage everyone to go to their streaming service and throw a couple of bucks that dude's way by downloading and listening to that dude's album. I love that album. It's Changes by Christopher Williams. Also, Christopher Williams is known to have dated both Halle Berry and Stacey Dash. Now, I don't know or care what any of you think about either of them personally, specifically Stacey Dash and her ramblings about Trump and all of that stuff. And since she's come out and said that she was doing cocaine and all of this stuff, and that in some way influenced her behavior when she was going off the rails, talking all that crazy stuff that she was talking. I don't care about any of that. Not in the least. I bring this up because Halle Berry and Stacey Dash are two of the most beautiful women that I've ever seen in my life. And he had the pleasure of having kicked it. Kicked it means knocked them down, had sex with them. He did that with both of them, allegedly. That's not why I'm bringing this up either. Even though that last point would definitely be enough, I tell you what, if I dated Stacey Dash and Halle Berry in my life, I'd be good. I'd be good. I can just give up the ghost right now. But I didn't, so I guess I'll be living a little bit longer. Anyway, I bring this all up is because there are reports that Christopher Williams was in a coma. And then there were other reports that came out that said that those reports of his being in a coma weren't true. I don't know which is true and what's not, but what seems to be apparent from both sides and undisputed is that he's had some kind of health issue, and that health issue led to his hospitalization. Christopher Williams is 54. And even though after dating Halle Berry and Stacey Dash, like I said myself, that'd be enough for me to have accomplished in my life that I could die a happy man. At 54, I'm imagining that for Christopher Williams, that probably isn't enough. And he would probably prefer to live a little bit longer. You people that listen to this podcast consistently, you know where I'm going with this. The demographic of this podcast is an older demographic. When I say older, it's in the 40s and 50s. That's what we cater to. That's what we talk about. That's what the topics are geared for. You didn't get that from the perimenopause episode, then I don't really know what to say to you. But with all of that said, I'm bringing it up because, like I always say when I mention these stories, is that we need to take better care of ourselves. I keep saying it. You might be tired of hearing it. Your eyes might be glazing over, but let them glaze, because until you do it, and until I stop having to talk about these stories, which I'll be talking about them forever, because people won't take care of themselves, I'll continue talking about them and encouraging you all to go to the doctor, take care of yourselves, and do what you need to do to survive in this cold, cruel world. I just had a friend that went to the hospital for high blood pressure, and their excuse, she had 100 different excuses, from it's hereditary and all this blah, blah, blah stuff. Never mind the fact that she ate poorly and didn't exercise. Never mind that. We need to stop making excuses for not being healthy. It's not because we're getting old. It's not because our family had this and that. It's because you're not doing enough in a lot of cases, not all cases, obviously. But in too many of these cases, you're not doing enough. We all have to do better. And I will keep beating that drum. And shout out to Christopher Williams, and prayers go out to him and his family. And I hadn't seen that he's dead yet. So, hey, let's keep holding on. Okay, so that's enough about Christopher Williams. And I want to close this episode by talking about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is right around the corner, depending on when you listen to this episode, or it might have just passed, depending on when you listen to it. Or shoot, hey, it might have passed months ago, depending again when you listen to it. And while it is on a Thursday, a lot of people that I know have the whole week off. Plenty of people have Friday off, and there are some people who have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off. Either way, for most people, it's a long weekend, or at the least, is a it's a week where you might have a break in between, unless, well, you're really one of those unlucky people and you're actually working on that day. But hopefully, if you are working that day, you're getting time and a half. And during that time, I hope at least you can get some rest and relaxation. You can be able to decompress, do a couple of woosahs, and all of that, or do whatever you do. And in the midst of all of this turkey and all of this crap that you'll be eating and all of that, and spending time with your family that you probably don't like, but you feel obligated to spend time with, or you might like them. Who knows? Who cares? Let us not forget the true meaning of Thanksgiving. It is when a guy jumped in a boat, and he was so ignorant and got so lost that when he landed ashore, he thought he was in India. Thus, the reason that the Native Americans that were here, he thought they were Indians. Those same Native Americans that him and his cohorts and his colleagues and his buddies or non-buddies or other people that came over after him or whatever felt a strong desire to take those natives that were already here, kick them off their land, and basically ruin their lives for generations to come, and forever, most likely. And they took their land, colonized their land, and now we celebrate the day that they did that. On Thanksgiving Day, I cannot help but think about the Native Americans that live on reservations all around this country, all around North America, and think about the problems that they have endured and continue to endure, how they have never been able to rebound generations after their land and their livelihoods were stolen away from them. And the shameful part about it is how we all have just pretty much forgotten that while we're sitting around a table eating turkey and other stuff that we shouldn't be eating in the first place. But with all of that said, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I think, talk about hypocrisy, I think they actually made the day after Thanksgiving a holiday or something like that. Oh, yeah. The Friday after Thanksgiving is Native American Heritage Day. How many of you knew that? Yeah. So Don't worry, Native Americans, my brothers and sisters. Yeah, you're on a reservation somewhere drunk, God forbid, living in squalor, all because your land was taken from you. But the Friday after Thanksgiving, you have Native American Heritage Day. God bless. All right, I am done venting. Sorry, I have to end these things on such a negative note, but you know the format of the podcast. Don't act like you've never heard it before. And if you haven't heard it before, welcome. And like I tell everyone that listens to this, tell 50 friends to tell 50 friends. Appreciate you for that. Okay, so before I leave, as always, Reggie, you want to say something? Nope. Reggie doesn't want to say anything. So, in honor of my man Reggie and myself, I want to wish you all a happy Native American Heritage Day, a happy Thanksgiving, or a happy belated. If you're listening to this late, hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you thought about your Native American brothers and sisters and thought about the thief. Never mind. Never mind. I'm not going to go off on another rant. But until the next time that we chat, goodbye.